This
half to 2 inches
conference will now be recorded.
of asphalt, and then they put a new asphalt or top course, and then
Which segment of Oakland? I'm sorry, I just wanted to be specific.
I'm not sure how far south they went, but they did run it. It came to the municipal limits at Edgewood.
And at that time, did we know and did we coordinate?
We were not aware that they were doing that, no. That's very much a temporary measure. I would say it's very similar to the work that we did last year, well, almost 2 years ago now on Lake Drive, which was, we kind of called it a Band-Aid approach to give us a smoother pavement surface until the reconstruction. Yep. Milwaukee's HIPP program is very much a temporary measure. And the reason for that is because you're not doing a significant amount of work on the base course. You will probably within a year, maybe even less, get what they call reflective cracking. And you'll see that that's what you see on the HIPP roads that Milwaukee did. Wherever there existed a joint or a crack in the pavement below the new asphalt, it will reflect. You will see that within a couple of months to a year.
And you said we did this on Lake Drive. Is that what we just did?
That's very similar to what we did on Lake Drive, yes. And there's already a fairly significant amount of reflective cracking out there. The fourth option is panel replacement. So that would be targeting on a worst first basis, perhaps, and choosing to replace an identified number of pavement sections each year for the foreseeable future or for whatever term that the board would set. Of those four options, staff would recommend that you consider options 2 and 4. Those are the highlighted options. Reasons for that: the full reconstruction is a pretty significant undertaking, very expensive, very intensive, essentially shuts the roadway down for the construction season. And in most cases, particularly actually for the entire corridor, the curbs are in relatively good shape. Certainly the paver panels are doing well. The sidewalk is doing well. We've had some replacements. But that is very intensive and intrusive. And if we're looking at pavement condition only and not necessarily in need of a streetscape, that might be going a little beyond the scope of what we need to do at this point. Number 3 would be the mill and overlay with base patch. Staff feels strongly that while everyone would love the look of this for the first year, within the end of the first year and from that point on, you would see a lot of reflective cracking, particularly if you are putting an asphalt top course over a concrete roadway. Every place that you have a line or a joint in the concrete would reflect back through the asphalt, and you would see all those lines. It does improve the ride, but aesthetically, I don't think that would give you the look that you're looking for very long. So we would recommend that you consider options 2 or 4. The next part is just my kind of brief or quick takeoff on options for construction. So 22, obviously the first column is the years. The second column was my kind of approach on where would we have the capacity to do the construction. When I say capacity, I actually mean where would it not interfere with other projects already currently in the schedule. So as you know, we have 2022 and 2023 scheduled for the southeast area combined sewer improvements. 22 would also be the restoration of Edgewood Avenue MMSD's project. So certainly if we were looking to do any kind of work on Oakland Avenue, we probably would want to stay away from the south side in 2022. 2023 is more Southeast area combined sewer improvements, but that actually moves north and east of sort of that Edgewood Oakland intersection. So I put north here, but if it was necessary, we could do some work on south of Oakland Avenue. I think that we could certainly make that work from a traffic standpoint. 2024, we do not have any major projects scheduled. Let me just verify that I'm not saying something out of turn here. And so certainly 2024, you could do work on either north or south, either full pavement restoration or panel replacement. 2025 is our lead up to Lake Drive, which is scheduled for 2026. But you may recall 2025, we did double up on sidewalks and alleys because we would not be doing either of those programs in 2023. We also have the Oakland meter pit scheduled in 2025. So the meter pit, you could go either way on that. There may be a way to combine some additional concrete work with that work because there will have to be some restoration done in the intersection, or you may need to stay away from it entirely. That's something that we could work through at a little bit greater detail.
Leanne, can I ask a question about that? So
Yep.
the Oakland meter pit is at Oakland and Edgewood, right?
Correct. Yep.
And
It's just north of the intersection.
so the Edgewood project, where is that? Pavement restoration in 2022.
Right.
Is that not the same? Is that intersecting with that or not?
I'm at this point not knowing the details of MMSD's plan. I can't say with any confidence how we might be able to coordinate that work. I don't know that we can. That's a conversation that we can have with them when we have a better idea of exactly what their project entails and where they're going to place the access shafts. But at this point, I just don't have enough information to say that that is something that we can coordinate with them or not.
But is it I'm trying to get, is it in the same physical area as whatever road reconstruction they're planning to do? Or is it like just north of the intersection?
I don't know.
Okay.
It really depends on where they place that access shaft and what structures need to be in that intersection. When they get into that level of detail design, they may come to us and say, hey, your meter pit's in the way. Can we move it for you? I mean, that would be a best case scenario, right? But I don't have enough information to be able to answer that question at this point. Haven't seen anything from them yet. But you may recall that we would be looking to relocate that from the intersection and put it further to the east, somewhere within Humboldt Park, or at least the right of way of Humboldt Park, because access to a subsurface vault in the middle of the intersection is not the safest for either the workers entering it or for the traffic, for that matter. 2026 is Lake Drive. At this point in our scoping discussion.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Can I ask a question about that as well?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. So I was under the impression when we did our engineering interviews that they were at the point of engineering the Oakland Avenue Edgewood segment MMSD. And so I'm confused on how we don't know where they're going to put the shaft.
They have not started actual engineering yet. They're just finishing up their preliminary engineering reports. They haven't actually done any of that work just yet.
Oh, okay. So preliminary engineering wouldn't include location?
General locations, not specific.
Okay, well, we say general.
They have not shared that with us.
Okay, well, is there any way that we can be a little more proactive on Oakland Avenue? Because I've been a trustee for 5 years, and we've been talking about Oakland Avenue since I got on the board. It saddens me that we're not taking the initiative when the whole board last year, it's on video, has requested that we move this up, and we're not really pursuing it as much as I think the village board has asked us to do, or asked the staff to do. The fact that 2 years ago we didn't know that Milwaukee was repaving, like we just did for Lake Drive and we had done prior to Wilson Drive, a major arterial in our community, like that touches on it, that it blows my mind that we don't know that. And so I feel like I don't have enough, I'm not an engineer, and I don't have staff's knowledge enough to say what preliminary engineering will show us and what engineering will show us. But just to wait and see is not the approach that I would want staff to take. And I've always wanted to be proactive on Oakland Avenue. I think we missed a great opportunity to save a lot of money by going on one contract with the city of Milwaukee.
Okay, well, I mean, it seems like we're getting some options, and I think we need to, I don't know, Leanne, I'm not sure with the schedule that you're talking, that's on these notes, is that for number 2 or number 4, or does it differ for number 2 or number 4?
Yep.
Well,
It could be either. It could be either. What I'm going to just our thought process as to, whether you should be working in north or south in certain years, or whether it doesn't matter.
Okay, I see. I understand what you're saying. Okay, so okay, I get what you're saying then with that table, and then so it seems like the next.
Sure. Yep, I can run through the rest. So we estimate that 30 to 40% of the panels are in need of some sort of repair or replacement. In 2019, we replaced 6 panels at a cost of just under $20,000, right around there. So just for a reference point, I counted panels. I'm sorry?
I didn't know if those were budgeted last year. Did the board, or was it just from need base, the 6 panels that were replaced?
It was part of our operating budget.
Okay.
Yep, we identified it during the budget process.
Okay.
So just for some context, the 4,000 block of Oakland, from Capitol to Elmdale, has 26 panels, 13 on each side of center line in the driving lane, and then another 13 panels in each parking lane. So that gives you a total of 52 panels in that block. Now, very rough estimate, if you assume 52 panels per block, and there's about 18 block lengths for the entire Oakland corridor, you have about 936 panels. That's very rough estimate. It is somewhat less than that, because in the area near Metro Market, you don't have people driving lanes each side of center. So, but for this purpose, so 936 panels, if you assume that 35% of them are in need of replacement, that's 328 panels. And I'm just making this up, right? So if the board was to fund panel replacement at $50,000 a year, with the economies of scale and adjusting the prices, we think we could probably do about 20 panels a year for $50,000, give or take. At that rate, it would take us about 16 years to replace all the panels that we currently have identified. And it was about, in today's dollars, about $800,000.
Was that discussed in the budget last year? I apologize, but you said we've approved the panel replacements, and I don't remember that statistic, that it would take 16 years. I just wouldn't have voted for it.
Last year, Leanne said that they were going to fund it out of the operating, and they were going to use that to try to come up with a better cost for us for this year, and they just funded it out of their general operating. So she didn't have numbers for us last year. Okay, this was just, they did it to see how it would work and how much it would cost.
Okay, and Leanne, in your best quote, is it really, I mean, a road this old, is 35% of the panels defaulting not accurate, but is that the assumption that that's what you think is true? even
Based
though
on
it
our,
might not be, but I would think it was higher, but I'm going off of what you're saying.
based on our observations, we believe it to be in the 30 to 40%. I mean, certainly we can say 40. I think that the one thing to keep in mind as we talk about panel replacement is typically our biggest area of concern are the joints are failing, particularly the joint between the driving the panel in the driving lane and then the panel in the parking lane. And that also happens to be pretty much smack in the middle of the bike lane, which is exactly not where we want it. So when we're replacing panels, we really have to replace the panel in the driving lane and then its adjacent panel in the parking lane in order to truly most efficiently and effectively address that joint failure. Like I said, that happens to occur right in the center of the bike lane. So
is that a safety issue?
you know,
Okay, I think that Trustee Stokebrand had a question.
Okay.
Did you
I
have a question?
after that.
Oh,
No,
I thought,
no, I did not about Oakland.
okay, I have a, I mean, I have a
I have
question.
one after you.
What?
I said I have one after you. Thank you.
So, okay, if we do the panel replacement and we replace 35%, then what about the other 65%? And are we still going to need to do complete road reconstruction, or would we just do those as separate panels also as those start to fail?
I think with how this is laid out, and again, this is very rough stuff, but if you did it at $50,000 a year and it actually we went through for 16 years, I think by that point, I think you'd have a hard time ever getting done, I guess maybe is the most straightforward way to say it, because in the ensuing 16 years, the remainder of your pavement condition is deteriorating. So you would get through those 328 or so in 16 years, and you would find that more are being added to your list because those are now 20 years older. So I think, it's an approach that addresses short-term need, but I don't think that it eliminates the need for a road reconstruction sometime, within the 10 to 20 year planning cycle.
Trustee Menta?
So, yeah, I just have a follow-up question. So, I guess my question is there's an option to do the whole thing. And I would like to talk about, let's talk about them separately. So if we do the whole thing, not the curbs and gutters and sidewalks, but just the pavement part,
Yep.
is there a place sooner than 2028 where we could fit that in, especially if MMSD does not start in when are they supposed to start? 2021 with their digging their tunnel, right? Because we don't have it set. They've told us something, but we don't know that that's going to happen. So is there a possibility if they're delayed a year that we could, I mean, we'd have to obviously get the engineering done.
I don't actually, so what I believe is the most likely scenario is that they start their project. Okay, so they could start it when they say they're going to start it and be done sometime in the spring of 2022, which is what they have communicated to us.
Right.
I believe that if that project were to be delayed, a likely scenario is that it gets delayed further into 21, and they're still constructing in 22, perhaps into the summer or into the fall. So I do not see it so far delayed that 2022 opens up for us. I don't see that happening.
And 2021 is the AMI, basically, that we're focusing on, alleys and sidewalks. Okay. Okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
President.
Okay, can you hear me? So,
Yeah.
I apologize, I didn't go back and look at the whole video from last year, but I don't remember that it would take 16 years. My question is, why are we treating Oakland Avenue different than Wilson Drive and Lake Drive? They're all three of them in my mind, and maybe there's a factual, more engineering explanation, but in my mind, they're all three major arterials that travel north and south through our community. And in both instances, we did put a mill and overlay on, and I believe maybe Wilson wasn't concrete. I don't remember, but I know we did for Lake Drive. And so my question,
Lake Drive was also not concrete.
Wilson was not concrete. Is that what you said?
Neither Wilson nor Lake Drive were concrete.
So Lake Drive is not a concrete road? Okay.
It has concrete portions, but no, the has an asphalt top section.
And that makes it different?
Yes.
That's why you're recommending different levels. Okay. So I don't understand why the engineering department of the city of Milwaukee would recommend in their high impact, any different than what we would be recommending for a temporary solution if we wanted a temporary solution. They didn't do it panel by panel. I'm sure they have a large staff and capacity since they have an engineer on staff to say that would have taken 16 years. I mean, it would have been too long because the road wouldn't have lasted. So going off that, unless there's justification of why we, and you might have it, of why we wouldn't follow what Milwaukee did, why are we thinking and giving options to the village board about panels that'll take 16 years? It just doesn't even make sense that we're talking about that. And the last thing I wanted to ask was, go ahead, then I'll ask it after.
That was something that we were asked to explore last year, was how or if we could address it smaller portions at a time.
I understand, but last year you didn't know, according to what you just said, that the city of Milwaukee, what they did 2 years ago. So this is new information. I know it's something that, but I'm not sure because I can't see the screen, but if it's something you're recommending or not, is it an option 2 or option 4?
It is not.
Okay. And then
high impact paving is not something we're recommending for Oakland Avenue.
And either is the panel replacement. Is that what you're saying?
No, that would be one of the options we're presenting to you to consider.
Okay, then that's my point, is why did Milwaukee, I don't understand why our community that's like inches away from us on Oakland Avenue, why we wouldn't, did we think that was the wrong process? I know you said the pavement won't last. Why would they do that and us not take their lead? And go ahead.
The reason that Milwaukee developed their high impact paving program is because they were scheduling roads for reconstruction 100 years out.
So were we on Oakland.
Clearly, nobody has the appetite for that. So they developed what they call it high impact paving. In the industry, I believe.
But yeah, that doesn't make sense because you're saying it'll only last like a year. It's not different in their pit segment than ours, is it? So even if it was 100 years out,
I did not say it would only last.
You'd see the joints.
I apologize if I wasn't clear. I did not say it would only last a year. I said it would be a year before you would see the reflective cracking.
And then
the surface treatment or the ride would last considerably longer than that. But from an aesthetic standpoint, it will not look like a new street at the year mark.
So how long? What I'm trying to get at is,
can I just ask
no,
you?
I'm not finished, please.
Well, I would like you to ask if you want her to come up with a cost and a proposal for doing what Milwaukee.
No, I'm asking about length of time in how long would it last? And I've had the wrong information. So let me clarify with her, please. As an option, she's giving us the option of doing high impact pavement just like Milwaukee. She's not recommending it. My question is, how long would that driving surface feel better? Will it take us to 2028? would it last 10 years?
Okay,
Or-
she
or
wrote the
is it?
question. Let's hear the answer.
That's hard to say, possibly. And I think the ride surface would be better on North Oakland Avenue simply because you don't have the slope there that you do, but on South
can I-
Oakland Avenue,
Okay, can everybody please mute, okay? Because there's a lot of interference and it's hard to hear Leanne's answer. So if everybody could mute, and I'll mute myself too. And then hopefully we'll get a clearer audio, okay? Okay, go ahead, Leanne. Thank you.
okay, sure. On the north section of Oakland Avenue, north of Capitol Drive, I think that would hold up well for a number of reasons. One is it has significantly less traffic volume. The other is it's relatively flat. On South Oakland Avenue, because of the grade or the slope and the higher level of traffic and significantly higher truck traffic, I think that you would have a more premature loss of that pavement surface and of the smoother ride, simply because as those joint lines reflect through, in coming down a hill, you're going to hear that, you're going to feel that.
Do you know
So
what the city of
I guess-
Milwaukee projected for their segment south? It's right next to ours. Did they project 10 years or are they saying the same thing as you? Like, we think it's only going to last less than 10 years.
I do not know, but it's not an apples to apples comparison because they had, I believe that they had a couple layers of asphalt over their concrete road base where we do not. And you have to make sure that you maintain proper drainage. So you have to make sure everything feathers correctly into the curb line and into the driveway approaches. So you're going to be limited as to how much asphalt you can put there. So we would be placing our asphalt driving surface directly on top of that concrete base. That is not what they did with their high impact paving program. Their new asphalt surface went onto asphalt. So it's not, it's difficult to make an accurate comparison of the two roadway sections.
Can I?
Okay, thank you.
Allison, can you please mute your phone? Because I think that's
I
what's
had
causing.
my last part of my question that I'd like to ask, if possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and so when we talked about the bike lane on Oakland Avenue, and when we actually restriped it recently, I did ask the question, is it a safety issue because it falls right within the bike lane, that crack? And the answer at that time was no. I just want to be clear that is the answer different today for the new trustees? Do we feel that it is a safety issue to have a crack in the middle of the bike lane? And then I'm done.
I don't know that no came from our department. That was a concern that we raised pretty much from the get-go, and it's a concern that I continue to have. So I don't believe that when that question was asked directly, that no came from our staff.
Okay, I'll rewatch the video. Thank you.
Okay, so Leanne, I'm a little, I guess President Rosick is bringing up, it seems like a third option of doing something similar to what City of Milwaukee did, which is basically, digging up some of it and putting asphalt down as a this would also be a temporary measure until we fully reconstruct the concrete roadway. But so what I'm hearing, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is that the road beds are actually different, and is this something that is also an option that we could consider, at least for the north part, or no?
Exactly.
You could. I believe, and I believe that Joel is on the same page. I don't think you're going to be happy with the product. I think it will look great aesthetically. It'll ride well for the first year or two, but I think you're going to be very disappointed with the aesthetics of that by the second or third year.
Okay.
And the ride, but didn't we just clarify the ride would be longer than 1 or 2 years? the aesthetics would be, you're saying, but the ride you just said might be less than 10 years, but not significantly. Or I heard wrong. I apologize. I'm done.
Okay, so can we just go, I'm getting a little confused. We have the first option, which is replacing everything in between, but we really don't have a time in the schedule that we can do that before 2028, because that's also a big project, correct?
That is a huge project.
Okay, even if we split it between north and south, like if we just did north and waited on south for 2028.
The worst condition.
Yep.
Okay. So I mean, I guess okay, let's say if we split it up in north and south, because north is kind of away from where everything else is happening. Okay. So we would either have doing a complete road reconstruction, or what President Rosick is saying, which is also an interim option as opposed to the final option of doing an asphalt thing. So is there a possibility of doing one of those, just the north section? Even, I don't know.
Or the south section during the Edgewood project. I always thought that we were supposed to coordinate with MMSD and City of Milwaukee on our repaving of Oakland after they're done with Edgewood on the south side.
Let's just do one question at a time. Okay, if we say the south is too much going on there, but we want to address the north, is there a time? I mean, I'm looking at what we have for, well, we'd have to engineer it, so probably the soonest we could start would be 2022 or 2023, and I realize there's big projects going on already. Maybe 2024, there's not that much in 2024. So could we do it in 2024? Just the north section?
I think that's very reasonable.
Can I ask my question then too? For 2023 or 2, when MMSD does do Edgewood, isn't the City of Milwaukee, didn't I ask this last budget season, are we supposed to be coordinating on the repaving anyways of Oakland?
Not Oakland, Edgewood.
Of Edgewood.
Okay. I mean, if we're moving the thing out of Oakland, our water meter pit, then why wouldn't we do it simultaneously the same year? It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we're going to have to patch this.
I think one issue is that Edgewood would be out of commission and Oakland, and that would be for traffic reasons. That would be
subsequently, right after we move the pit and they do their work. It would just make logical sense that then we redo the road, or we repave, or one of the two options. But because we're going to be patching it anyway.
Right, but the project area for that pit is in comparison with the 5 blocks south of Oakland, south of Edgewood. The project area, the footprint of that pit is very small.
Okay, so
I agree that they actually could be coordinated, but I don't think that the replacement or the location of that Oakland meter pit needs to drive Oakland Avenue.
No, and I don't mean just the pit. I've said this from the beginning when we met with MMSD, you and I and Rebecca. We should be coordinating. I thought we decided at that meeting with the City of Milwaukee, the old commissioner, that we would be we'd be coordinating Oakland Avenue with that project, meaning subsequently, so that we have, when you open it up, it's a brand new road and a brand new, meter pit and a brand new sewer system or drainage system.
The meter pit has nothing to do with sewer. Meter is water.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand.
I'm not clear on what you're asking, because the meter pit is just one area out of that whole 5 block. It's one little, square.
I'm asking, I think it would be prudent, just to summarize, that we do Oakland Avenue directly following or simultaneous or whatever our engineers and Leanne decides, but with the project that MMSD is doing. Not necessarily at the same time, but maybe directly following it. I think engineering should be occurring simultaneously or whatever sequence they think, but not spread apart where we do. I think we should be thinking about it holistically.
Right, but Edgewood and Oakland are two different roads. So we're going to be doing, I mean, in 2022, we have Edgewood, and then we have Maryland, Stratford, Stratford Court, Prospect, Menlo, and starting the sewer project.
Okay. Well, I was part of the engineering interviews, and I don't know if maybe I have more, I'm thinking about that, and other trustees don't have that information, Leanne. But I just remember Strand presenting alternative options for this, sewer design. And one of them is to move it out of, Oakland. And so maybe I have
No,
different information.
Sorry, that's not correct. Sorry,
Okay.
that's incorrect. We didn't have any discussions regarding Oakland and Edgewood with Strand.
In the
That's
interview?
not part of their scope of work.
Oh,
Not
okay.
part of their scope of work.
Okay, so it's not, I mean, and other people can jump in here too, but it seems like we do have some room for north of Capitol a little bit sooner than 2028 if we decide to do that. I guess the other option is to take a more piecemeal approach, which in some ways I like, because we'd be addressing we could start to address the worst parts first. But I guess that is, I mean, at that point, I'm a little confused. Like if we did, like, let's say we did Capitol to Elmdale, and then then we get to 2028 and we bid the whole thing out. Or is that part, the part that we did, that's not going to have to get dug up and redone, right? They would just do around it?
It depends on how much you've already done. As crazy as it sounds, sometimes it's actually less expensive for them to pull out decent panels and just run that paver straight through, because it's much quicker, it's much more efficient than if they have to gap it and pull the paver up, and that gets pretty expensive. So yeah, so it just depends how much work you've already done in that block, and is it subsequent, like not a panel here and then you skip a couple panels and a panel there. That would certainly be taken out. But if you have, say, a number of panels, several panels consecutively in a row, it's very possible that would get worked around.
I have a
Okay,
question.
just let me just say that we did on Lake Drive, everything we did on Lake Drive, last year, is going to be pulled out in 2026. So it's not like we don't have precedent for putting something in that then pulled out. Go ahead, Trustee Stokebrand.
My question was, on Oakland Avenue, besides the meter pit, are there any significant utilities under that, running north and south under that road bed?
We absolutely want to put in some additional valves and replace some water main valves. I don't know how many of you are aware or would really even have reason to know, but there are some pretty long stretches in there without valves, and the issue there becomes when we do have a break, we end up shutting off hundreds of customers rather than being able to isolate it down to a block level or a 2-block level. So particularly in that 4,000 block, we go several blocks without a valve that will allow us to isolate and that shutdown. So we definitely want to be adding valves before we do too much concrete work there. The water main there, it is the age of most of the rest of the water main in the village. And if we're doing, a full reconstruction, then I think we definitely want to talk about water main replacement. If we're doing panel replacement, probably
does MMSD's project have any effect on our water valve?
No.
With a bigger pipe?
No, MMSD is sewer. And it's going to be at a depth that it does not disturb the water main on Edgewood.
Okay.
So Leanne, we could conceivably try to do the north part in 2024 and still do some patching and patching the worst areas of the south part, right? We could do a hybrid of both.
We could, like I said, I'm not, depending on how you want to tackle this, we could jump on panel replacement in 2021 certainly, if that money is included in budget or bonding, we absolutely could jump on that next year. I would suggest that if we do that, we focus that then on the south area, simply because in 2022, 2023, it's going to get a little thick contractors down there, and we probably don't want to be messing around in there if we can help it. But we could certainly do that in 2022. And then if you wanted more panel replacement in 23, we could do that on the north end. And if the full pavement replacement is something that you are looking at, 2024 on either north or south end, that's certainly something that's doable. I just want to throw one thing out just for you to consider. I have lived through reconstructions of Oakland Avenue. It's incredibly intense. As you know, it's very dense, lots of small businesses, and it takes a lot. There's a lot of management and coordination that goes with that, a lot. And it tends to be difficult for the businesses, given the climate that we have. You just may want to consider how much disruption we want to plan for within the next year to two, because I think we're all being very sensitive to how the current times and the difficulties that those businesses are facing.
Trustee Menta, I have a follow-up. Leanne, when we did Lake Drive, we did reach out to the city and asked when they were going to do their full reconstruction as well, based on the bike lanes and I believe the parking lane. Can you let us know as the board when the city of Milwaukee plans to do their full reconstruction at the south end? And then also, I just wanted to state that the paneling seems, unless there's a dire need for it to be segmented, I would hold off. That would be my recommendation. So I'd like to hear, do you think there's a dire need on the south side for the paneling at this time? And when is the city of Milwaukee doing their full reconstruction? Because as a business,
I believe,
as a business, I agree. I think it would be, you got to think about shutting down the road and how it affects businesses. But if the city is shutting down the road in 2 years or 4 years for their whole reconstruction, I would hate to do it the following year, because then you're shutting down Oakland twice.
Okay, you asked her question. Let's hear the answer.
okay, well, I may have to ask for clarification, because I thought you were asking me about Lake Drive. When the city of Milwaukee.
No, she's asking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not aware that the city of Milwaukee has anything scheduled for Oakland Avenue south of Edgewood.
But you said the pavement probably won't last more than 10 years. Okay, can we just double check
that they have scheduled? Yeah, they're we're talking on a 10-year basis here. Their road reconstruction schedules go out 80 to 100 years.
Yeah.
I have
okay,
already,
and you've seen it,
I've already inquired as to when Edgewood.
No, I'm not.
I have already inquired when.
Okay, let's please not let's not talk over each other, because it's making it very difficult for anyone to hear or understand what's being said. So did you have a question, Allison? What's your question?
I'll repeat it. I have two questions. Have you asked the city of Milwaukee or seen a plan that shows, so you can confirm to us, they have no scheduling of Oakland Avenue for reconstruction?
It is my understanding that they have no scheduling of Oakland Avenue for reconstruction.
And you've confirmed that with them?
I have not, but I can try tomorrow.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm requesting. And
okay,
so then the second part.
Yeah. What's your second part?
The second part was there a dire need for paneling that you would make the recommendation to us that we should actually include it in the budget? Or would it be, in your opinion, a waste because we're going to have to do reconstruction before we get to 15 years?
I think that there are panels there that will not make it 15 years. You have several on the south section of Oakland Avenue that have completely failed. And the failure is different than north of Oakland Avenue. North of Oakland Avenue, we're seeing joint failure. South of Oakland Avenue, you have complete panel failure. You have cracking and spalling the entire surface of the panel.
And have we confirmed with the state Lake Drive's date? Because that could drive when we can open up a year to do reconstruction sooner. If the state changed the date.
2026.
Would you say 2026? Okay.
2026.
Okay, I had, so from what, am I correct in saying that you felt we could do either north or south, that we could fit that in 2024, like full reconstruction? Not full, but pavement reconstruction.
Pavement replacement, yeah, from a calendar perspective, we can certainly do that.
Okay, but, and the, all the sewer work we're doing, is that going to be done by December of 2024? Or is that still going to be going on?
Well, the first phase will be completed in 2022, the second phase in 2023, and then the third phase goes along with Lake Drive. So we
Okay,
would
so
not be doing any sewer work in 24 or 25.
So we do kind of have not really a breather, because we're used to doing major projects every 2 years, but we do have a summer there that we would not be having a major, well, we have 2 summers, 2022, 2024 and 2025, where we don't have a major project going on.
Well, 2025 is going to be a really difficult year. A double sidewalk program, a double alley program, those are both incredibly hour intensive programs. So yeah,
we could decide not to do a double alley program and a double sidewalk program too.
Yep, you could do that.
Okay,
And
so I
do
would
we
like to get, hold on. I would like to get a reading from the board in terms of the priority of this versus doing the double alley, the double sidewalks in 2025, doing the pavement versus a reconstruction of either north or south in 2024. I mean, so can we go around and, yeah, Trustee Carpenter?
I just asked a clarification question about the paneling. So, especially on the south side of Oakland, how does that work? I guess it doesn't matter which side of Oakland, but you know, is it like a block by block basis? You know, so we would determine, you know, this particular block and then move on to the next block, and how, you know, just trying to understand, you know, we're, you know, hopefully in 2021 have come back from COVID and all of that, and just trying to understand that and the impact it would have.
Yeah. That's a little hard to answer at this point, simply because my preference would be to do it in groupings, you know, to maybe do 4 adjacent panels or 6 adjacent panels. Certainly we'll get a better price that way because we don't have traffic control going several blocks, that sort of thing. But, you know, you're just not, if you do that, depending on the money that's allocated, you're just not going to see any kind of progress, so to speak, right? So if you concentrate, let's just say you're going to do 20 panels a year and you concentrate those panels within 1 or 2 blocks, then you don't see anything for the rest of the corridor. So I think, and I would, you know, ask for a little leeway as we work through that a little bit. But I think at this point, we probably would go after, you know, identifying maybe the worst 4 or 5 groupings of panels, like pairs of panels, and go after it that way. You know, that seems to be the most rational, simply because you're addressing the worst areas first, and that's kind of what we do with all of our infrastructure, right? We rate conditions and we go after the worst areas first.
Oh, yeah, I think where we are now is we have a couple different options that we've talked about. We know we have a year 2024. I think we need to give direction and have Leanne and Joel come back with some more specifics, like, for example, exactly where on the south side are the worst areas, And also cost. I mean, what would the cost be to do 20 of the panels in 2021 or 2023 or whatever, versus what's the cost in 2024 to do a full replacement south of Capitol. So I
Trustee
think,
Mender, I'm not sure the whole board is under that. I'm not sure you have not got.
hold on, please. Can we try
I'm not
to?
sure we want to give her that.
Hold on, please. I will call on you. I will call on you. Just hold on.
No, you are going around the table, and it's Trustee Carpenter's turn to talk. We go around the table, then you ask every single one of us if we have anything to say per your direction.
Can we try to come up with some direction to staff for them to come back with some options in terms of what they're talking about and what the cost is going to be? And then we can, because I think tonight, I think tonight we need to give some direction and come back at our next meeting. And I think that's where we need to go. Okay, Trustee Ursink, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say about this?
Trustee Carpenter done?
I think she is, yeah. Are you done, Jessica?
Yeah, yep, I'm done.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Trustee Amenta. I guess, just a couple of questions. I'm all in favor of staff recommendations here. I think, for me personally, I'd rather not have to, keep putting money into something, just to cover it up. I mean, I'd like to find that solution that is the most cost effective and long-term. I think you're kind of right. Everybody's thinking the same thing here. We don't want to put money into one thing and then 3 years later put money back into it. So, what about, and I know these are very expensive as is, but, with the MMSD Green Solutions program, would any of this be applicable? Could we get some of that funding for these, or no, nothing?
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh. Why? Because we used it all, right? For the alleys?
I'm sorry?
Is it because
No,
we used
because
it or we allocated?
No, because there's nothing about this pavement that qualifies as a green infrastructure piece.
Okay.
Okay, that was a question I have, and then just for my notes here, what's the general size of a panel?
Oh,
Sorry, I know it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to picture what a panel is, and this is outside of my wheelhouse. I have nothing about engineering of roads, so I've learned a lot.
It's not even as big as a parking space, is it? I mean, it's roughly, they're not that big. If you go and look, you'll see it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 10, in the neighborhood of 10 by 11.
Okay, that's great. And then, yeah, so I guess my only comments are, I'd hate to keep on going back and putting money into something that eventually, I guess from what I'm hearing from you is this will all eventually need to be reconstructed, correct? I mean, that is the ultimate goal, is to reconstruct everything, and that reconstruction lasts, what, 20 years, 30 years? Or is that the most long-term sort of solution?
Over
If
that
it's,
deadline.
if it's concrete and it's well done, it should last at least 50.
At last 50 years. And we're kind of at that 50-year mark, like right now, essentially. Is that what you're saying? We're kind of at where we need to reconstruct?
Yeah, south of Capitol, excuse me, we are. North of Capitol, we are not, but we have some pretty serious drainage issues there that were not addressed when that road was reconstructed in 1995, 96. And that's the reason we've had the Concrete Pavement Association come look at the roadway and try and determine why it's failing prematurely. And all signs point to drainage issues. There should be under drains in that road, and there are not.
And then, just because I want to get this out, are there any green solutions that we can consider here, or are those way outside of our cost, our cost range?
Typically, on a road of this traffic volume, you would not put those within the driving lanes. So those would be incorporated into either parking lanes or behind the curb.
Okay.
Which does not really talk about with either of the two recommended options.
Okay.
So,
That is.
Trustee Ursink, I was just going to ask you. So you're feeling, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the replacing the panel idea is less appealing to you than doing the pavement reconstruction 2024 of either the north or south segments?
I think, from a cost standpoint of view, I would hate to invest the money now and then in 4 or 5 years down the road go through the full reconstruction. It just seems a little bit wasteful. But again, I'm not a road engineer, so I'm going to take the recommendation from Leanne and DPW here because, but from my personal view, I'd rather not keep money invested in this when we have so many other places to put money into. So that's just my thought.
Right, but she has 2 recommendations. One is panels and one is the whole thing. So I think I hear what you're saying though. Okay. Did you have anything else?
That's it. That's all my notes. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Trustee.
Okay. Let me see. Trustee Stokerbrand.
Yeah, I guess I would, my first question would be something that no one knows, but I just wonder with Leanne's experience with the state budget in tatters, what are the odds of Lake Drive happening in 2026? That I just wonder if that might be an option if things get pushed down. But the way things stand, if the state budget is to maintain what they're going to do, their plan, I would support redoing Oakland Avenue South option number 2 in 2024. I think North is in a lot better shape, and I understand what Leanna said about the drainage issue, but I just think you need to go and fix what's broken, what has the largest need. And so that's why I would support Oakland Avenue South option 2 in 2024.
Okay, and you are not in favor of doing spot panel?
I am not. I just don't think long-term it's what we want to do. We're looking for a 50-year fix here. This is a high, like Leanne said, it's a lot of retail. It's very dense. To do a panel here, a panel there, I think it would make people more frustrated. I understand. Obviously I need to see the numbers, but I think for those reasons, I would go with number 2.
Okay. And Trustee Warren, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Thanks for calling on me. First, Leanne, thank you for putting together these options. I mean, going back to last year, there's been a lot of interest in Oakland, and from my view, prioritizing Oakland is something that we need to look at and accelerate. I mean, in light of that, and kind of skipping to the end a little bit, I would be in favor of accelerating reconstruction of Oakland. I'm not as interested in the panels option. Going back to what Trustee Ursing said, I don't want to do this a number of times. I want to do the most cost-effective long-term solution that we can for the village. And I think accelerating that into 2024, as Trustee Stokebrand said, is a good idea, at least at this point. I mean, I'd be interested also, Trustee Amenta, you touched on this, in seeing a really concrete spreadsheet of the cost estimates. But my predisposition at this point is to do something long-term instead of these short-term patches that don't necessarily obviate the need for a long-term solution.
Okay, sounds good. President Rozek, do you have a preference or comments you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you. I agree with both Trustee Ursink and Trustee Stokebrand and Trustee Warren, so all 3. I'm not in favor of the paneling. I believe it needs to be accelerated, and I believe that the south side is most critical. It has never been, in my recollection, redone. It's the oldest street in our books that has not. So being our main arterial and our business district entrance, I think that's important that we get it done sooner than later. So I would do the south side. I am interested in seeing the time, not just the cost, but the time spreadsheet, meaning in coordination with what we have to do with the water pit, as well as the timing of anything that would affect Oakland Avenue based on what the city of Milwaukee and or MMSD is doing. So if you could just lay that out for the board at the next meeting of just, here's intergovernmentally what's going on Oakland Avenue in the years that we know. And if there aren't any years, that's fine. But if we can see whatever we do know, that'd be great. So that we're not tearing up the road twice. We're not, stepping on other intergovernmental actions' toes. So time and cost would be appreciated.
Okay, well, I agree. I would prefer to see the south side of the south end of Oakland moved up to 2024. I think we seem to all generally agree on that, and that the panel approach, while it has some attractiveness to just get rid of the worst or deal with the worst sections of the road, that there's some inefficiencies there. So I guess what that pushes out possibly in 2024 is some of our DPW projects, or maybe you just need to come back next time with that change, and then, you know, if you feel there are things that have to be jiggled around, you can make those changes. Okay, it sounds like we've all had our say, unless anyone else has something. We did, Kathy, you brought up something else, about the alleys, allocating more money for the alleys. Am I right that no one has anything else they want to add to the Oakland discussion?
I just want to add one thing. I just want to confirm that I'm on literally the right page here. So in this document that we got from about the meeting today, and there's the timeline that goes from 2021 to 2030. Am I missing it? At this point, there's nothing about Oakland Avenue south of Capitol. We're totally adding it out of the blue.
I think that's a typo, like 2028 or 2029. One of them should be south. Is that correct?
2028. Yes, that's a
2028.
typo. My apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the costs are in there, is what you're saying, at this time in a certain year?
They are
Yes.
in 2028 and 2029, and we're just talking about moving them up, or at least the south up to 2024. The north would stay 2028, correct? Is that everyone? Okay. Trustee Carpenter, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was asking those questions regarding the paneling just to understand it. I do feel, and I am in support of moving the south end of Oakland up to 2024. And that was my next kind of question is, so then what happens to the north section, and is 2028, Leanne, do you think that's the right time for, I mean, the north section appears to be in much better shape. You know, is 2028 the right time for, or by 2028? And of course, there's no way to predict anything, but is that, you know, would you feel it's the right time frame for the north end of Oakland Avenue?
I would, in a perfect world, I would prefer to see it earlier than that. But part of the reason I laid out these notes this way is I'm also trying to be realistic from a work capacity standpoint, both from, you know, what our small staff can handle, and being sensitive to how much construction and disruption we're putting residents in the same area through, you know, in a relatively short span of years. So, you know, we're going to have to do interim maintenance between now and 2028. That's absolutely certain. And some of it probably will involve some panel replacement north of Capitol Drive. But you know, with the schedule that we have laid out with Lake Drive and the combined sewer improvements, there just isn't, you know, I think 2024 was the big open year. And there's just a lot of work that we've all identified that really needs to be done, and only, you know, you can only wedge so much of it in the time span that we have in front of us. So I don't love 2028, but I don't really see a lot of options for moving it up.
Leanne, if we skipped alleys and sidewalks in 2025, so we wouldn't get to them in 2023 or 2025. But if we did skip them, could we substitute Oakland Avenue North in 2025?
Certainly you could on the schedule. I would, you know, perhaps tonight is not the night, but I would ask that at some point we could have a conversation about, you know, this sort of work capacity concept. You know, that's 5 major projects, 5 consecutive years. That's pretty heavy stuff. And with just Joel and I basically doing the legwork on this stuff, it's gonna take a toll on operations.
Well, I guess we have some time between now and 2025. We can, discuss it further in future years, certainly.
I have, for clarification, is it, Leanne, is it engineering that is like the major concern, like we don't have enough engineering capacity, or is it more of, I know in like Lake Drive and on Wilson, you asked us to hire a contract manager because of the amount of citizens or residents that were affected. Which is the biggest concern for you for work capacity?
The biggest concern is what I would generally just call both contract administration and resident coordination. Every time we do a major project, we hire a field inspector. That person's job is to make sure that the project is being built according to the engineering plans that have been designed, so that we're getting the product that we're paying for and it's functional, right? But it's really difficult. We did not. It's really difficult to quantify for you the impact that it has on our utility staff, on the front office and the volume of phone calls we get, and the resident requests and the things that have to be followed up on.
Right. I understand that. Can you just clarify though, there was a road that we had this discussion at the board that it was going to be a lot, maybe it was Wilson, and that you wanted to put in more hours so the contractor could handle some of that rather to take the workload off our staff. And we did allocate. Was that Wilson?
That was Lake Drive, the Lake Drive mill overlay, and there was extra hours for Mustafa in there to handle resident and issues like that. But he was the construction manager.
Yeah, it was Lake Drive, and actually the extra hours out there were for someone to be in the field at all times so that we could keep a good handle on traffic control and coordination because of the volume of traffic on that roadway.
Oh, I was mistaken then. I thought it was because we were going to have a lot of resident calls. That's what we were told at the board.
Okay, so I think the direction you're getting is to move the south, total reconstruction of the south up to 2024. I mean, I'm comfortable waiting to discuss 2025 until a later year. But is there, do we have any more discussion we need to do on Oakland?
I have one comment. Can we go around the table?
I am wondering, well, I guess my only concern about 2025 for the north end of Oakland is remove, but we had this summer the issue so many sidewalks far exceeded what our budgeted plans were for sidewalks. My concern is that if we don't do sidewalks or alleys in 2025, when we get back to them in 2027, we're going to be in that same kind of predicament that we were in this past summer, where there were just so many slabs that needed to be replaced.
Yep.
So I know that 2028 is not ideal for the north end of Oakland. And I definitely hear that, Leanne, and you're the expert, so I definitely want to hear what, appreciate your thoughts. But I do have a little bit of concern about removing sidewalks and alleys from 2025.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should, I mean, I'm in favor of just leaving it the way it is. Okay, President Rozek, did you have another comment? President Rozek, do you have another comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. I apologize. The assumption that I'm hearing is that it's going to be harder on residents to do Oakland Avenue in 2 phases, subsequently in 2 subsequent years. I think that's what Leanne has expressed. And I want to make sure that that is correct, because as a business, I'd want to see the whole road done in 2 years rather than spreading it out. So I just don't know where the assumption is made. I understand closing the road. Does anyone else on the board have any input on what a business owner or a resident, would want in that situation? Spreading it out 4 years apart, or just getting it done in over 2 years?
I mean, personally, this is Trustee Ersink. I think personally, 1 year is going to hurt a business. To have it back-to-back years is probably going to kill businesses, So, I mean, I think it's going to make it really challenging for our business community on back-to-back consecutive years. If it needs to get done, it needs to get done. There's not much we can, I think what we can do here is, in 2028, we can do the second half. I do think I'd be sensitive to doing them back-to-back. Just because that would be a lot for our business community.
Thank you. And that's what I wanted to just check in with the board on, that assumption. And saying that, I agree. So I would think that 4-year gap is okay. 2028 would be okay. I also would just want to make, I also, in agreement with Trustee Carpenter, our sidewalk program has to get done. And so I don't want to defer that. And then lastly, I just have a feeling like Trustee Stokeberg that the state's going to change their mind on Lake Drive. That's my feeling. And so if that happens, I just want to know that staff is, aware of the board's feeling, like if and when that comes down, that change, that we're notified right away and we can make adjustments to our schedule of Oakland.
I would agree with that comment. And also if the scheduling changes for MMSD, which pushes us back, I think as soon as we have that, you should come to the board and let us know so we can look at all these. And the other thing we may need to consider is getting the engineering done, what we need to get the engineering done sooner rather than later, so we have it. So if things change either at the state or at MMSD, we can make substitutions and we're ready, we're shovel ready. So, okay, unless someone else has a comment, I think we can move on to, I think Trustee Stokebrand brought up possibly allocating another, what was the deficit for the alleys? Was it 125, Leanne?
I think it was for the section that's between Jarvis and Capitol and Stone Downer. And I would just, because it would be another 4 years because before they could get them, I would hope we could find the 125 instead of making them wait 4 years and possibly talking about delaying that. I think that section, like I said, I looked at it from the street level. It's horrible. It's crumbling. It's some of them actually in A through G are paved concrete. They're concrete, and the one over in C is only asphalt. And I understand you have to lump things together, and that makes sense. I'm just saying if we could find an extra 125 for Alley C in 2021, be my preference.
I mean, I will note between last year and this year, our general infrastructure projects went down from 5.18 to 4.61. So we do have a little room based on the numbers from last year. I'm in favor of adding 125 to 150,000 onto alleys for 2021. Why don't I just go down? Why don't I just go down the table? Okay, President Rozek, can you give your input, please?
Sure. Yeah, I was hoping that everybody could have some input on it around the table, one at a time. I am in favor of that. Trustee Menta is correct. Every year we seem to have flexibility when contracts come in lower than proposed, whether it be the alley contract and or any other infrastructure project. And when we have a balance, a positive balance like that, based on allocated funds versus actually used funds, Mark usually comes to us and asks us, proposes something. And we really haven't had a great capital planning, process. So we just typically have approved as a board. I would prioritize this. I would ask the board to prioritize this alley so that if there's any remaining funds because of the bids come in under, and in our balance by month 6 that they're allocated, or whatever DPW feels, but that it is reallocated for this purpose.
Can I just clarify, because I think what Trustee Stokebrand and I are saying is increasing the amount allocated in the long range plan for 20
Yes.
from 750 to 875.
Yep, and I would not be in favor of that without seeing the rest of the budget, but I am in favor of what I had just mentioned, that if there is allocation in the capital budget that is to the positive based on bids that have come in under, like Wilson Drive was that year, that they are allocated for this purpose.
Okay, okay, thank you. Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I would pick up on some of President Rosick's points. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'd like to see this in context of the rest of the budget. I mean, conceptually, I agree with the point that we should prioritize this, and to the extent that we can keep projects on schedule, keep them on schedule. So, you know, if we have remaining balance, I would definitely be in favor of prioritizing that. In terms of just adding it to the budget, I'd probably like to see it in context for the rest of the budget, but conceptually, I think it's a good idea, and I'd like to remain on schedule.
Okay, I'll just point out that when I express the different totals, since our total is, and Mark, tell me if I'm wrong here, but since our total is less than it was last year, the debt service projected, the debt service that was projected for next year's budget will be reduced a little bit because our estimate for the Larkin Newhall came in less than we had in the long range plan last year. So the number for debt service at the bottom, there we have a little bit of room there. But Mark, maybe you can explain.
Yeah, are you saying there is
Sure.
we are to the positive right now, or did we utilize that fund, Mark, for something else?
Sure, I can talk to that if you like. The current plan with the updated numbers that are in red is about $1 million less than last year's final long range plan estimates. So from the context of comparing the fiscal impacts between the 2 years, I would say that, you know, there is room in there to have the same outcome by adding the project money to the alley. The only other thing I'd like to add for clarification is that we need to bond money for the 2021 projects in about 6 weeks, at least start that project. So what we would hope is to have a commitment of the service level effort that the board's willing to put forth, because if there are no savings compared to what we bond to, or if there's any project overruns, it's really a challenging position to have any flexibility.
Can I ask a follow-up for Mark? So for 2020, though, for next year, is that when this alley that Trustee Stokeberg, I don't have the things in front of me, but was planned for?
Correct. It's a 2021.
Right. So 2020, yes?
2021.
So do we have, 2021. Okay. Because I was going to say, at this time, do we have excess bond proceeds? I'm not talking about the estimate of what we plan to do, but actually what we bonded for.
We haven't bonded for the 2020 or 2021 projects yet. That'll be done in June.
Do we have any excess proceeds from the last bonding cycle?
Yes, line one reflects approximately $350,000 of residual proceeds from the 20 bonding.
Could those be rolled over to fund this alley, or do you already have them earmarked for something else?
Well, you know, where you apply the money is in a large degree doesn't impact the outcome, because if you apply it on the alleys instead of roads, you just have to borrow more money for the roads. So it's really just a cost offset to the total borrow.
So when you say, Trustee Amenta, that our debt service goes down in following years, that's assuming that we roll this over to lower the cost rather than utilize it for infrastructure projects.
Yes, the residual bond proceeds are already in the plan. My point was that last year the total that we were talking about for 2021 was 5.185 million, but because the bid for Larkin Newhall came in low and PPII got
But
taken
that's
out.
estimate. Yep, I get that. I'm just asking about the actual bond proceeds we already have in hand.
Yes,
And
they
so
are in.
the-
They are already counted in there. They are already netted out. They're
Okay,
already in.
so
They're
okay,
line
so
1B.
I understand I don't have the document in front of me. That's why I'm asking. So I think just to make it very clear, what I'm hearing is we had a savings this year. We bond every 2 years for the new trustees. We have a savings of 300 and something thousand because the bids came in lower on some project. So we have this excess. Right now it's rolled over so that we lower our bonding costs, like we don't borrow as much for 2020 and 2021. But you could utilize it. We could take that and utilize it for the alleys and roll it over for the alleys. It just means we're just going to have to bond for more money next year. Or in 6
Well,
months.
the total, I mean, what I think Mark is saying is the total number, we bond for a total number and there's sub projects in there. If you apply the 350 to alleys, it would not be there for the local road program. It all nets out to the same. So that's, I think, what he's saying. But the point I was making in terms of budget, in our operating budget, we have a debt service number. The debt service number is the result of how much we bond for. And so if we were going from 5.185 million last year to 8 million, we would say, oh, our debt service is going to be higher, right?
Yep.
But we're not. We're going from a total of 5.185 to 4.6. So
Does that change the year? Does
What?
that savings change the year in which our funds are depleted? Because if it doesn't, then I'm more inclined to say use the funds. If it changes the year, if it pushes it out a year because of the savings, you know, we can still apply it to debt service in a future year, then that makes a difference to me. So Mark, do you understand my question? Does the savings that Trustee Amenta just quoted allow us to have an extra year? Like if we didn't have those savings, does it allow us to have an extra year to fund debt service than if we didn't have the savings?
Hard to say. Again, yeah, the concept of tax levy for debt service, you know, the village has been going through this debt stabilization process. And then last year, instead of allowing it to increase, the decision was made to hold it flat. And there was a rather substantial memo on the fiscal impact of that moving forward. So it would be staff's general expectation that the year that TID closes, the debt service tax levy needs to go up to what the actual debt service payments are. So within the context of comparing the two schedules, I don't think that this change with the alleys would have a significant impact on either one.
Okay, thank you. So just so people understand what my question was, my concern has been for 5 years is the debt service payments, because we run out of reserve funds in our general fund to do this, and we still need to supplement it, or the tax levy will it will increase substantially over 1 year rather than spread out. And so my concern has been over the last 5 years, it's been changing. The year has been changing based on the amount we've been approving in infrastructure. And I just wanted to be clear, and it sounds to me like, Mark, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if we approved the use of this savings, that the debt service year that we run out of money to subsidize the debt service based on all other factors remaining the same would not change. It would not go to another year.
Mark, are you going to have, Mark, when you come back, are we talking about this again on the 26th? And when you come back on the 26th, can you have that schedule of the debt service stabilization and have calculated out the debt service?
Well, the entire endeavor is to give the board an opportunity to make any adjustments to the project schedule so that I do have the ability to do that. And then based on what that looks like, the final decision on how much to bond for, once you see how the schedule impacts that, certainly is
Mark,
effective.
every year. our expectation is different than what you provide. The expectation is that we would say, does it affect the debt service level year? You'd run the numbers, come back, let us know, and then we can decide. But we never get that. We always get, you just tell me what you want, and I'll run the numbers. And that's why I've been asking for 3 meetings. I don't want to tell you what I want unless I know that the debt service isn't going to change, completely to a different year. So I think Trustee Amenta's question is correct, that is it possible for you just to run the 2 scenarios? It's like a push of a button, and you come back and you say this scenario would produce this on our debt service chart, and this one would produce this.
I think I could get the information you're looking for if you can give staff guidance on what the project level will be.
I think
It's going to
we're,
be a clear number, because what you're really talking about on $150,000 is like $10,000 of your debt service. So is that likely to move the needle when you're talking about multi-million-dollar debt service payments? Probably not. Is that debt service number going to be on the cusp? I can't tell until I run the schedule with the updated project schedule, and I'd be happy to point out the difference between the 2 scenarios on the next meeting.
yeah, if you could come back to the next meeting and give us like an indicator of if we remove the 125,000 from alleys for 2021, like for every 100,000 that we put in, this is what it means in terms of total debt service and what it would mean to the stabilization fund. Like if you just give us a ratio like you sometimes do for levy, that would help.
And even with Oakland Avenue too, moving Oakland Avenue up.
Okay, do we have, does anyone else have something, opinions about, yeah, Trustee Ursink, sorry, go ahead.
That's right. Thank you. I'm just, I'd be in favor of this, but I think I'd only be in favor of this if we could make the consideration of creating a green alley at this location. I know it's a really big undertaking. It's one of our biggest alleys here, and it's probably one of our most costly alleys. But I would think it would be the most beneficial for a green alley, and it looks like it is. There is a possibility of creating a green alley here, so I'd be in favor of it, but I'd only be in favor of it, if it was considered for the green alley program.
Okay, well, is it on the memo as one of the green alleys? I don't remember.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Would be 100% funded?
Against cost. I mean, the cost significance is another $100,000. I would assume though, some of those funds would be paid for by MMSD's Green Solution program. So if we could
you confirm that assumption? Because my assumption was different. I thought we used all our green alley money.
Leanne, can you clarify if this one is included? Is it, I thought we did use almost all the Green Solutions, didn't we?
I do not have my alley file with me, so if Trustee Ursink says it was listed as a possibility for green, I totally believe him.
It was not this year.
There was, I call them reserve funds or available funding capacity for, we did not earmark all of the MMSD Green Alley Solutions money for the 3 alleys that we identified. So there would potentially be funding available there. Just as a reminder, one of the recommendations that staff has had pretty consistently is that the green alleys or the Green Solutions money should have first priority in the separated sewer alleys because that is the only place that we get TMDL credits. We get no such credits in the combined sewer area, which is where the alley in question is located.
Oh, okay,
Why was it recommended for Green Solutions?
That's a good point. So I kind of lost count of who's in favor of putting some more money in for 2021 and who hasn't. I am. I know Trustee Stokebrand is.
Well, to answer Arthur's question, though, I mean, why was it included in the Green Solutions, Leanne, if it wasn't in the separated or whatever, if it's not in the right area?
It was not. It was identified as a possible candidate for a green alley, but we did not recommend using Green Solutions money to fund it.
So it would have been 100% our money anyways. Okay, thank you.
Are
Okay,
we
so
capped for green alleys? I'm sorry, Trustee Menta. I'm just curious. Is there a certain allotment of money that we can spend with these green alleys with the Green Solutions program? Or do we come to WM or MMSD with our ask of how much
No,
we?
it's an annual allocation.
Okay. So if we
Leanne,
spend,
do they, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so if we spent, let's say, $300,000 in 2020, is there a way that we could make that a green alley if we push that to the following year? Or I'm just asking a general question. If we push that off, can we use
We
those
just have
funds?
to pay for it. I don't think Arthur, could you think,
but
Arthur, can you follow up?
Copy staff's
Leanne?
recommendation.
I don't
Okay,
think Arthur, Trustee Ursing, if you could meet with Leanne on that, it's the separated sewer versus the combined sewer, and why we put our funding, the village's funding, why it's been somewhat of a policy decision of putting our money where it makes the most impact. It might be helpful, and then you'd better understand whether you want to do it or not. We have a million alleys, and we're never going to be able to fund Green Solutions for all of them. And so I just think it would be a helpful discussion.
Leanne, does MMSD have any extra, like, do they sometimes have allocation left over that they will sometimes give out? Is there a possibility for that?
There may be other competitive grants available, but I don't know that it would come through Green Solution.
And we still prioritize them in the combined sewer or the non-combined in an area.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to get a sense of whether there is support for putting extra money in 2021, changing it from 750 to 875. I'm in support. I think Trustee Stokerbrand is in support. Jessica, yes, are you in support? Okay.
Yeah, no, I am, but I would like to just see it in connection with the overall budget and see sort of where that all lands. I think the alleys are pretty far behind as far as pavement goes in comparison to a lot of other parts of the village. So, I would be in support of it, but I would also like to somewhat see it in connection with the bigger picture. So that's my thought.
Okay, because Mark will come back and I think he'll have worked it out to what chunks we're going to need to borrow in each of these 2-year periods and what that debt service means, and then we can compare it to last year's projections. And okay, can I just ask?
Sure.
Can I just finish getting a sense if we have four people who are interested in increasing that particular number for alleys? Because Trustee Ursing said he was only interested if it was a Green Solution, and it doesn't look like it is. So that leaves yourself, President Rozek, or Trustee Warren. Can you just let me know, is this, because right now it's only at 3?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Trustee Warren. But
I
I'd
was
like
going
to
to say,
comment.
I'm on the same page as Trustee Carpenter on this. I'm in support of it conceptually. I just want to see it housed within the larger budget itself. But yes, I would chalk myself up to being in support of looking at it.
Okay, thank you. President Rozek?
I'm with Trustee Warren and Trustee Carpenter. I want to see how it probably won't affect that schedule, so then I'd be even more supportive. But I do have a general question that has not been asked. The state of Wisconsin came down today on the ICC phone call, basically saying they're probably not going to give out any relief funding in the next budget cycle, because for our emergencies, there's a significant, like $17 million budget gap at the county now due to this emergency. I have no idea, as we talked about the last board meeting, if our property values are going down based on, I don't think we've had any foreclosures. I don't know if businesses are going out of business. So I'm leery to add to a budget when we might not get relief from the state or the feds. And if we don't, I'm not clear from staff on what the impact is going to be on our budget. And so I know Trustee Carpenter or Trustee Stokebrand asked that at the last board meeting. Do we have a summary? And Mark had replied, this is it. I just still am not clear on what the impact is. Does it have any impact on our taxes? Because the city of Milwaukee just furloughed and is laying off tons of people. So I can't
Amy,
imagine it has no effect on us.
Are you asking specifically about the 125 to increase
No.
the alley from 750
know.
to 8? What?
I don't. I'm just asking for clarity on whether, knowing that the state might not give us relief, is there any impact of the virus to our budget this year on property values and or taxation? And if so, I would not be in favor of increasing the budget for the alleys. I need to see in the overall picture, and I need staff to give us a better understanding of, is there any impact from this emergency?
Well, I think Mark can come with the 875 and will be able to give us some indication as to what that means to the debt service amount. Correct, Mark?
Doesn't answer my question.
I think I'm restating what you said you want. Okay, go ahead, ask your question again. My understanding is Mark is going to be able to give us some indication what adding this budget means in terms of debt service.
Yes, he will. Thank you. But my question was a more general question because of the information I received today and I'm sharing with the board, which is that the state ran out of money and basically may not fund relief in the following budget cycle. Is there anything, why is it in Milwaukee? Is it based on foreclosures, businesses going out of business? Is the taxes in our community being affected, the property taxes in any way from this emergency situation? Because all around us it is impacting budgets, and I haven't heard beyond, permits are down a little bit or parking revenue, but is it affecting our property taxes? Do we project
I'd be happy to answer that briefly, even though that's a slightly off topic. The answer is no, it does not. Our assessed values will be set based on January 31st. And just a quick follow-up as well, most of the budgetary impact is due to our own decision to lift parking restrictions. The amount related to the COVID-19 costs is fractional of that. And then related to Milwaukee County is reliant a lot more on economic-based revenues in the village of Shorewood. So I think that's one of the reasons they have more challenges. Thank you.
Parks like these? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I was hoping we'd be done by 7:30, so we're a little bit over. I guess, does anyone, in terms of the long-range financial plan, is there anything other than the two main items we've talked about, moving Oakland Avenue South up to 2024 and adding 125,000 to alleys for 2021? Is there any other questions, changes, items for discussion that anybody has?
I just have one. I don't have the document in front of me, and I say it every year, so it might already be in there, but is the out years still included in the long range plan past 10 years? Are the projections still included? And is the road, and what is the funding level after year 10? So for the out years for road reconstruction?
Well, that was in the packet materials, but I will summarize that it's about 1.6 million in 2030, and then a little over 1 million a year thereafter as we transition much more to a mill and overlay maintenance than full construction.
Okay, as long as there's money in there. At one point it was 50,000, I think, and so I just wanted to make sure that we were putting in realistic budgets for the out years. So thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments or concerns, Rebecca, so May 26th, what are we doing on May 26th? Are we just looking at revisions of this or what? What?
Coming back with responses of the follow-up information and projections with incorporating the changes in the project schedule.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All right, super. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.